Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pink Pill. Today we're going to talk about a topic that came up during my last appearance on the Whatever Show.
So why should they vote?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's a bizarre notion that the United States government or any other Western country would ever take a woman's right to vote away from her. It's a nonsense conversation that seems to be clicks for cash kind of conversation, because it's never going to happen.
Some people apparently think women shouldn't vote because, wait for it, we're too emotional, or because we don't have to join the draft. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like someone skipped a few logic classes. So today, we're going to unpack why these arguments make absolutely no sense and how history shows that emotions and emotional decisions aren't exclusive to women. Ready? Let's dive in. So apparently, women shouldn't vote because we're too emotional, because only women cry at sad movies, get upset when we spill our coffee, or want to burn the house down when someone eats the last piece of cake. Only women, right? Yeah, no. Because if we're going to start disqualifying people from voting based on emotions, the next election might have to be held at a yoga retreat. Deep breaths, people. Down dog. But let's get real for a minute. Emotional decisions aren't exactly a woman-only thing. Remember when Hitler decided to invade the Soviet Union during winter? Genius, right? If you're so emotional that you think you can outsmart Russian winter, you might need to rethink a few things. Spoiler, it did not go well. Or let's not forget Napoleon. My guy was so confident, he thought marching his troops into Russia was a brilliant idea. Newsflash, the only thing he conquered was a nice frosty grave for his army. But sure, let's pretend men never make decisions based on ego, overconfidence, or hubris. Here's the thing. Emotional decision-making is a human trait, not a gendered one. We all have emotions, men, women, everyone. And we all make decisions based on them at times. But here's the kicker. Being emotional isn't always a bad thing. Think about it. Emotions like empathy, compassion, and even anger at injustice can fuel positive change. Take Rosa Parks, for instance. Was her decision to refuse to give up her bus seat emotional? Absolutely. She was fed up, angry, and tired of being treated like a second-class citizen. That's one emotional act of defiance that helped ignite an entire civil rights movement. Or take Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Those women used their emotions of grief and loss and channeled them into a movement that changed our laws and helped keep the drunks from taking over the road. So, emotions aren't the problem. It's how we channel those emotions into action that matters. Now, the other argument is that women shouldn't vote because we don't have to join the draft.
So, yeah, kindergarten.
Can I interject
Please,
just for a
go for
second?
it.
So I feel like a majority of the women here are more conservative leaning. If you look at how women vote, they lean more left, more liberal. They make bad decisions in voting. I think that if you want to be able to vote, you have to be up for the draft.
Okay, so by that logic, we're going to revoke voting rights from every man over 60? Sorry, Grandpa, you're no longer fit to serve. So hand over your ballot, maybe next election. I mean, really? Forget about running businesses, raising children, or literally being 51% of the population. If I can't throw a grenade, I guess I don't have the moral authority to vote for a president. Seems fair, right? But if we're really tying voting to military service, what does that say about emotional decisions in war? George W. Bush, oh yeah, he was super calm and collected when he decided to invade Iraq because he thought they had weapons of mass destruction. Fast forward, and oops, no WMDs, but we did get a destabilized Middle East and ISIS. So glad we kept our emotions out of that one. Let's talk about women's contributions to modern politics. If women were too emotional to vote or lead, we wouldn't have seen the transformative changes brought about by women like Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, or Shirley Chisholm. These women were anything but too emotional. Take Margaret Thatcher, the first female prime minister of the UK. Whether you agree with her politics or not, she was known as the Iron Lady for a reason. Thatcher led with a combination of grit, determination, and yes, emotion. She wasn't afraid to make tough decisions, and she never shied away from a fight. And let's not forget Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress and the first Black woman to run for president in 1972. Her campaign slogan, unbought and unbossed. If that's what being too emotional looks like, then sign me up. Now let's entertain the idea of repealing the 19th Amendment for a second. What would have to happen in America for that nightmare to become a reality?
Listen, tell me under what circumstances would it be possible for women to lose the vote? I really want you to just lay it out for me. What's the scenario?
Sure, there'd be a Republican
No, that's not what I said. What would happen?
I'm
What would have to lead
literally
up to
saying
it?
to you right now. So a Republican president would be elected. He would propose a bill that would go through the Senate and the House that would be to remove the 19th Amendment. It would go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would be based Republicans, and they would say, yes, get rid of that 19th Amendment, and then the women wouldn't be able to vote anymore. And then the Republicans would get elected more.
And we would all just live together happily.
First, we'd have to convince 50% of the population, women, to hand over their voting rights. I'm imagining the sales pitch now. Hey ladies, wouldn't it be great if you had less say in your future? No? Oh, come on. What's a little democracy between friends? And that's assuming that all men would agree with this dumbass proposition. May I point out to all the men who are on board to vote for Kamala Harris to be the first female president? Good luck with that, bruh. You'll be fighting this war on two fronts, and history has already shown us how that works out. Next, Congress would need a 2/3 majority to propose this amendment. So, politicians would have to get together and be like, you know what, let's undo 100 years of progress because women are just too emotional for democracy. That's totally what's wrong with the country. Not corruption, not lobbyists, not billion-dollar corporations running the show. Nope, it's those pesky women and their feelings. And don't even get me started on what happens next. We'd literally be voting to silence half the country. Can you imagine what that would look like? Half the population gone from the voting booth? Poof. No more pesky women holding democracy together. But here's the thing. If we repeal the 19th Amendment, who's next? We already took away voting rights from women because they're too emotional. So what's stopping us from saying, well, while we're at it, let's just go ahead and get rid of voting rights for Black people, Hispanics, and anyone who's not white, male, and Christian. Because, if we're starting to kick people out of the voting booth based on irrational stereotypes, where do we stop? Welcome to the new America, where voting is a privilege and not a right. Only straight white men who never get emotional are allowed to vote, because if you've got empathy, you're out. If we go down this road, we're looking at the collapse of democracy as we know it. In this bizarre world, about 17 to 20% of the US population would be eligible to vote. That's roughly 58 to 66 million people making decisions for 260 or 270 million Americans. We've officially gone from a democracy to an oligarchy ruled by a small, privileged group. Let's get real. Eliminate half the population from voting, and America stops being a democracy. That's not democracy. That's something else entirely.
For what you are suggesting, it would have to be all men Senate, all men Congress.
Yep.
Or the strongest.
That is not, when has that happened?
Why should women be in politics?
We'd basically be an oligarchy where a small group of people get to decide everything. And trust me, that's not what the founding fathers had in mind when they said, we the people. Pretty sure that we wasn't supposed to mean only the dudes who had no feelings at all. And don't worry, ladies, you can still, stay home and do yoga or something. Just leave the important decisions to us, the guys who gave you the Iraq War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Russian winter disaster. We've got it covered. Now, imagine what that world would look like. Women wouldn't be able to vote on issues that directly affect them, like reproductive rights, healthcare, education, equal pay. It'd be like playing a game where half the players don't get a turn, but they still have to live with the consequences of the other teammates' moves. It's like being stuck in a Monopoly game, watching someone else make all the choices while you just pray you don't get bankrupt by decisions you had no say in. And meanwhile, I'm sure everything would run so smoothly without the emotional wreck that is half the population because, men have always made perfectly rational, non-emotional decisions. Just ask Hitler or Napoleon or George W. Bush or basically any leader who's ever made a huge mistake based on ego, fear, or greed. But let's be real, whether you're a man or a woman, we all need to aim to be the most educated voters we can be. Voting isn't a game where you pick your political party like you pick your favorite football team. Our future depends on making informed choices, not just emotional ones. So how about we stop treating politics like it's Sunday night football and start treating it like it's our future, because it is. In all seriousness, repealing the 19th Amendment would take us back to a dark time in history. Removing half the population from the voting process would shatter the very core of democracy. Women aren't too emotional to vote. Emotions are part of being human, and that's what democracy is for, letting all humans have a voice. So, the next time someone tells you that women shouldn't vote because of emotions or the draft, remind them that emotional decision-making isn't exclusive to women, and last time I checked, we all live in this country. Our voices matter, and trust me, I'm voting with my emotions and my rationality. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's all I got. And remember, stay emotionally and politically aware, ladies. And yeah, this gender war thing, red pill thing is absolutely absurd. None of the arguments make sense, and I am so glad that it is dying. I'm loving the destruction, and I am dancing naked around the fire. All right, ladies, keep it pink.